week ago, there was this post-election conference between minds of the right and minds of the left. And of course, those minds were campaign officials, people who had ran presidential campaigns. Of course, there was also the Kamala Harris people who were triggered by the Trump people. And of course, there was Van Jones, who you were seeing right here in the B-roll footage, who pretty much admitted that the mainstream media was dead and that former President Trump had, well, President-elect now, had found a way to completely outmaneuver the media. Let me play some of that for you guys.
24-hour digital surround sound that has nothing to do with CNN, has nothing to do with any stuff that we do. I asked my son, I got a teenage son, I asked him, who are the most influential people in the world today? I'm thinking to myself, he's going to say Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Jay-Z. He says, Kai Cent, Aiden Ross, Jinxie, and Sketch. I don't know who he's talking about. I said, what platforms are you on? He goes, I'm on Twitch, Kick, and Rumble. I said, that sounds like you need to go to the hospital. What are these platforms? I'm telling you guys, the mainstream has become fringe, and the fringe has become mainstream.
Okay, you guys obviously heard some of that, even though I had to kind of edit it down a little bit for the purpose of time. But then he turned right back around and pretty much said the exact same thing on another personality's YouTube channel. Let me play this right for you.
A framework in your mind that, how can Donald Trump? Guys, can we cut it out? Donald Trump is not an idiot. Donald Trump, let me just be very clear. Donald Trump is smarter than me, you, and all critics. You know why we know? Because he has the White House, the Senate, the House.
Totally agree.
Court, the popular vote. He has a massive media ecosystem bigger than the mainstream built around him and for him, and a religious fervor in a political movement around him. And his best buddy is the richest person in the history of the world, and the most relevant Kennedy is with him. This dude is a phenomenon. He is the most powerful human on earth and in our lifetime. And
so you guys heard all of that there, and then out of the middle of nowhere, the news that I was not expecting dropped. And I got to tell you guys right now, I am absolutely loving this.
So it begins. Democrats now calling for more cultural dominance, praising Hasan Piker, saying we must support individuals like this. Now, Fox News ain't pulling any punches. They say top Harris aide hypes radical activist who said America deserved 9/11 while plotting future for Dems. House Democrat called Hasan Piker a poster child for the post-October 7th outbreak of anti-Semitism in America earlier this year. Me, oh my. Well, basically what we're seeing right now is Democrats recognizing that they've...
Guys, before we get started, let me go ahead and tell you right now how this is going to go. The first part of this is going to be talking about why this right here is absolutely hilarious to me and why it is that, well, it'll ultimately fail, but there may be another goal to go along with this. But the second half of the video will be talking about the media component of this, and I'll be kind of doubling down, clamping down on my 2028 prediction. Make sure you guys stick around and watch the video all the way through. Also, something else too, the Christmas updates video, if I've not already mentioned it, will be in the end cards and the comment section and the description box. Make sure you guys check it out. Even though I'm recording this video right here first, that video will be released first. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this. That is correct. The DNC, or a certain wing of the DNC, the social justice warrior wing of the DNC, roughly about a third of the Democratic National Convention, maybe even more, wants to invest their money into Hasan Piker, Cenk Uyghur's nephew. You know, the same guy who brought us such hits as...
Got to this point. But the issue was that happened.
So boring.
Donald Trump can do it. And all of us say there's no place for this.
I liked it. I want more January 6s. It was funny.
What the fuck? What the fuck is wrong with this dude? Didn't he go to war and like literally lose his eye because some mujahideen, a brave fucking soldier, fucked his eye hole with their dick? Isn't that how he lost his fucking dumbass eye? Because he got his fucking eye hole fucked? By a brave soldier? America deserved 9/11, dude. Fuck it. I'm saying it.
We're there to...
Against ever calling the police.
And I call the cops. Let's say that the cops show up. They arrest these two people for loitering or being threatening or whatever. And then they find out that they're illegal immigrants and they refer them to ICE and they get deported. Am I, as a homeowner, like the person that like reported them, am I now complicit in like deporting illegal immigrants? Is that on me? Do I have that liability?
Yes.
Bruh.
Okay. So should people just never ever call the cops ever then?
Yeah, I suggest against that. Yes.
Okay.
Well, my understanding is that the property owners who have properties there choose just not to rent it at all.
Yeah, kill them. Kill those motherfuckers in a video game. Sorry. Holy shit. Murder those motherfuckers in the street. Let the streets soak in their fucking red capitalist bloods, dude. Oh my God, in a video.
That right there was only a little bit, and I'll tell you guys what this fire really and truly signals. But before we get started, I want to let you guys in on a couple of things before we dive into this. Number one, this video right here is going to be coming out tomorrow, probably right around 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. I may be releasing a third video tomorrow night about the situation in Aurora, Colorado, because there was an update on the migrants. Apparently, they have finally been arrested, the 14 Venezuelan gang members, and of course, they're also throwing the current administration under the bus, the outgoing administration, but also something else too. I also want to talk a little about the Christmas video, which would have been released at noon. I wanted to release it at that time because I have a feeling that this right is probably going to be the time that that video there would get the most amount of viewership early on with the algorithmic rhythm and all that type of stuff there, or the algorithmic timeline of the day, how it actually works. Typically, the earlier video does better than the later video, but that video right there will be released before this matter, and it will also be the end card of this video here, as well as probably the comment section too, where I explain exactly what's happened this year and what's probably going to happen going into next year. But like I said, that video right there will be put in the description box, we put in the comment section, all that type of good stuff there. And speaking of that there, make sure you guys please go ahead and cut the notifications on. Please go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comments. And let us go ahead and get started. And by the way, Merry Christmas to every single one of you. So, I did not think that the Democratic National Convention would be so stupid as to do this. But then I thought about it, and of course I remembered that we kind of got telegraphed this when Hasan Piker was interviewed by a correspondent at CNN. And of course, he recommended that the Democratic National Convention try to change certain policies. Of course, those policies include their current policy on the state of Israel. Then I found out that Kamala Harris's team actually wants her to give it a go in 2028.
They're reporting that her aides and team divided between whether she should run for president or run for governor of California.
Yeah, I think some of that is also consultants who would like her to run for California because they want to get the payout quicker. So I'm not so sure that that's the right move. I think those are some of her California advisors. And also some of those same people are advising Gavin Newsom. So we'll just put the politics out there. Just saying. Personally, I think she should run for president again if she believes she has the energy to do it.
Do you think she could win the nomination?
I do. But I think you have to recognize, I remember, going into the second Clinton, when he was running for re-election, our chief of staff said, it's going to be like, we're going to string you up from your fingernails upside down, from your toenails upside down. That's what it is to run for president. And it's true. I mean, it's gotten only harder. But I also think you can't answer that question right now because,
Yeah, they feel somewhat shafted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So she could try to run for governor of California in 2026, then turn right back around and run for president in 2028. She probably would, given the right circumstances, get the nomination, especially given the fact that, thanks to Joe Biden, the Democratic National Convention first primary is in South Carolina, where she would milk the minority vote early, and of course California is one of the next states to go. This vote could also freeze out Gavin Newsom, who I personally believe will be their nominee, but still it will be very interesting to watch these people eat each other. So why in the world am I talking about Hasan Piker, and why in the world am I talking about Kamala Harris, and exactly how are these two linked? They're linked because the Democratic National Convention is letting you know, or a certain wing of the Democratic National Convention is letting you know that they don't plan on giving up identity politics, and they do in fact plan at some point in time to run a far left radical. However, I don't think Kamala Harris is actually the person to do that. I think, if anything, what Kamala Harris would do in 2028 is divide the party much, much further, and someone like Gavin Newsom would basically be a lot like what Mitt Romney was for Republicans in 2012. I'm kind of giving you guys a bit of an election prediction in this video here for 2028 once again. Newsom would not get the full vote. You have a lot of people out there who look at his record on stuff like, say, reparations, that type of stuff there. And, of course, you realize that, this guy right here is probably not going to get elected because there are certain bases within the Democratic Party that are not in California that do not like him and would not come out and vote for him. I remember back in 2018, 2019, it was Kyle Kalinske talked about a left-wing Tea Party and having a great big giant blue wave. Only to then, I guess he probably still doesn't realize this, but of course the vast majority of those types of politicians that he wants, they would only be voted for in the very bluest of districts in the country. Basically, what he would want was a massive wave of AOCs, Cori Bushes, Rashida Tlaib's, Ayanna Pressley's, the crazy loons of the Democratic Party, the crazy loons of the left-wing movement. However, when you look at the overall districts in the country, the largest cities, altogether it would only equate maybe at total, at best, 30 seats. It basically goes to the whole topic of wokeness and representation, how it is that you will officially have your representation, yet you'll have that representation without any power. It's one of the reasons why it is I keep on saying that wokeness and social justice warriorism is, in fact, futile. But let me get back on track. So they've decided with Hasan Piker, which tells me that the direction with Hasan Piker means that, they're about to split the party a little bit more than they normally would. This is the same guy who called Israeli children, Israeli babies, colonizers. This is also the same guy who made fun of Oliver, the guy who sang the song Men North of Richmond. Basically, it was a song about the working class, and the far left are supposed to be about the working class. Let me just go ahead and play some of that for you.
He very much, most likely, if he lives in Appalachia, which he seems to be living in Appalachia, he probably does not have a job. Like many people in that region don't have a job, because they used to work in coal mines and no longer can work in coal mines because of automation or because, woke liberalism has eviscerated the coal mining industry. Living in Alabama right now and everyone here has a boner for this song. Let me pick up my banjo and cry because motherfuckers out here getting snapped. Yeah, bro, if you're that poor, okay, if you're a poor guy living in this region, how in the ever-loving are you shitting on other poor guys?
Insulted him, people that you need to get on your side because the left is supposed to be about the working class. But of course, they hate the working class. That's the truth about the left, the radical left. This is also the same guy who interviewed a Houthi. This is the same guy who also got kicked out of the Democratic National Convention because they found out his stances on Israel and they wanted him to leave. All I have to say to you is, go right ahead and do so. This right here will only guarantee Republican victories going forward. And there's also these people who are looking at him right now and saying that you are the reason why it is that we have this Twitch adpocalypse. I forgot to bring that in. By the way, Amazon's going to have an issue in the near future with that. But let's swing it back to the Beanie Man and get a little bit more information on this. Now, real quick, heads up. I'm going to let this clip play all the way through because there's something else to talk about on the other end that goes to the media aspect of it, which I did not cover earlier on in this video. But let me play it all the way through for you.
Control. The corporate press is no longer what it used to be. And as I've been warning, especially in the previous video, the big players, Disney, Comcast, you name it, they are going to dump money in this space, and they will make sure that these voices rise to the top. Now, I don't believe Hasan Piker is in the path of that trampling that is underway because he's too, anti-Israel, I guess. Now, I think if you are going to play up, look at Twitch in the adpocalypse where he is. Many people are blaming him for this. Advertisers don't want to touch things where they're going to get accused of any isms. Let's roll, baby. The left is going to say they're defending Israel. The right, well, a lot of people on the right are going to say they're defending Israel too. Let me put it this way. Corporations don't care if it's Israel or black people or gay people or otherwise. Corporations don't want shock and defense regardless of where it comes from. Now, the people who are very Israel-centric, be it for or against, are going to claim that they're the perceived victim, whatever it may be. The reason why I think Hasan Piker is not going to get chosen in this regard is because corporations are going to say he evokes too much negative attention as it pertains to...
And to go on top of this, Tim has been extremely adamant that the Democratic Party, the bigwigs, Disney, the great big giant media companies are going to invest a heavy amount of money into this space here online to get their next Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan does not affect politics in the way they think. He does affect politics, just not the way they think. Let me explain. Joe Rogan will have a guest on. People listen to Joe Rogan. They listen to his podcast. They listen. It's Joe. Okay, we know how Joe is, but they learn more from the guest that he brings on, whether it be Alex Jones or when he had Bernie Sanders on, or whether it be Kyle Kulinski, who I talked about in yesterday's video. The video, the Wednesday night video. Whether it be Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, whether it be anybody, whether it be Donald Trump or J.D. Vance, they typically tend to learn more from the guest that Joe has on. Hasan Piker never has guests on. He's a streamer, and the numbers are actually down on his end. And not to mention, there's also the stuff that he has said, which you guys saw earlier in the montage, a little medley that I had there. Even Democratic Party voters are not going to go for what Hasan sells, which tells me that there's only one other thing that these people are actually trying to do, and that right there, of course, is to go much, much further to the left. And before I talk about that, I need to go ahead and say one more thing. They have already invested into the left. Yeah. People like Pacman, TYT. TYT got a $25 million investment back, I think, in 2017 from Jeffrey Katzenberg, Disney. They've already invested in these people who've got bigger platforms than Hasan does right here on YouTube. And it didn't get them anywhere. The only thing it got them was less culture war wins. The only thing it got them was people turning away from the left. Look, I always make the point, and it's pretty redundant, common sense, whatever you might want to call it, but I always make the point. Donald Trump. Well, actually, let's go back. John McCain, 59.1 million votes, 2008. Mitt Romney, 61.6 million votes in 2012. Donald Trump, 62.9 million votes in 2016. By the way, Trump won that election without the full base. There were actually a lot more never-Trumpers at that point in time. A lot of them came around in 2020. Case in point, great example, Glenn Beck. Ben Shapiro, same thing. So to also Matt Walsh. I don't even think Matt Walsh voted for Trump at all because I don't even start on Matt Walsh. But still, though, the point is this right here. The totals continue to get higher and higher and higher for the Republican nominee once the Democratic Party began to shift more and more to the left. 2020 was the breaking point, and you saw the breaking point go from 62.9 million votes all the way up to 74.2 million votes. Yes, Joe Biden experienced a massive vote spike as well, but of course, I've talked about that before, and I believe that most of that is, can't really say here on the platform, or else you guys know what will happen. But of course, the thing is this right here. This time around, it was 77.2 million votes. Sounds to me like a trend. It seems to me like the culture is turning back to the right, or maybe the Overton window has shifted so much to where you've got no choice but to go to the right. Fact of the matter is that the left is not popular, or it could be the fact that the Democratic Party is just saying, screw it, to hell with this, let's go ahead and go into far left radical territory. But for that right there, my friends, you would need somebody who's a little bit more than ingenious, a little bit more ingenious than Hasan to invest in. I've said this right before, Hasan Piker is not a serious person. He seriously is not. I included that clip from King of Nothing in for a reason. The guy is really and truly not a serious person. He's very, very much a clown, and I think that the normies understand that he's a clown. But there is one more thing that I do need to say before I close this video down and tell you what I think. It's this here. On this platform, you have billions of users, and billions of users are not just looking into politics. Like, I know my channel is small, but still, though, when you look at somebody like, say, Crowder's audience or the Daily Wire's audience, any one of those guys, when you look at their audience and you compare it to other audiences, people who listen or watch YouTube channels for, like, say, movie reviews, sports, whatever, the viewership is roughly about the same as those. They're not getting anywhere near the subscriber count, which tells me that not many people are going to YouTube unless maybe they want to check on something. Like maybe they're going to get their mind changed about something. Maybe they're looking for some additional facts or any type of documentaries or any additional information that the mainstream media does not provide. Still, at the same time, though, the vast majority of the people in this country still watch the mainstream media, which is going to be very interesting to see over the next 4 years if MSNBC does, in fact, go out of business. It seems to me like Fox News is going to get a lot more viewers, and CNN has no credibility, as well as Newsmax and, of course, Real America's Voice. I think News Nation will get some viewership, even though it's a little more left-leaning. The fact of the matter is that people, for the most part, still rely upon the news. So when you see someone like, say, Fox get a hold of this guy's streaming library and all the crazy crap he said, edit it down, it's going to get out there to the mainstream public. And, of course, there are also going to be a lot of people who are even left-leaning who are going to say, this guy right here is way too daggone too far to the left from me. I mean, just look at Destiny. Once people get exposed to these people, they realize exactly how far off the deep end the left really and truly has gone. And going back to this whole left-wing Joe Rogan thing, Like I said, they've owned the space here on YouTube and alt tech on YouTube for a while. All right, and the people who've been watching them, been viewing their content, they realize now exactly how full of crap these people are. It seems to me like this investment may be coming a little bit late, but it is still something to pay attention to. It's just ultimately going to be, at the end of the day, though, just a good old-fashioned waste of money. But let me get back on track. Yes, I know that there are 75 million people who still voted for Kamala Harris. But I can promise you right now, of the 75 million that voted for Kamala Harris, at least 4 or 5 million of them were never Trump Republicans who were Trump deranged. And I would argue that there were another 11 million Americans who were normal, sane, rational people, or they were before 2016, and they completely flipped out and went off the deep end. I can promise you right now that those 16 million that I just mentioned would not come and vote for a Democratic Party, or at least a good portion of them. They would not vote for a Democratic Party if someone like Hasan Piker was, in fact, the type of people that the Democratic Party chose to invest in. They wouldn't vote for Donald Trump. They wouldn't vote for J.D. Vance. They wouldn't vote Republican, but they definitely would not be supporting the Democratic Party if they go in that direction, which is one of the reasons why it is that I keep on saying that the ultimate end-game goal for the Democratic Party is for them to basically become a full-blown communist Marxist party. The question is, will it be in 2028 or will it be in 2032? And for that right there, let me give you my ultimate take. Right now, they're currently in the bargaining stage. That right there is what the Democratic Party is into. They are currently in the bargaining stage of their actual demise. So what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of discussions, a lot of arguments, a lot of ideological arguments, which of course is another reason why is I don't think someone like Harris will be gone. She'll probably be back in 2028, though she'll fail. I think what will end up happening is, like I said before, Gavin Newsom will probably get the nomination, probably barely, and he'll lose the election probably the same way that Romney lost in 2012 or McCain lost in 2008 to a very, very virile young Republican nominee, probably J.D. Vance, current vice president. He has the love of MAGA, and then to go on top of this, he also has a special, let's just say a special place in the media, as in the media at one point in time absolutely loved J.D. Vance, and of course now they do not like him. He understands their tricks, and he does a very, very good job of blunting them every time they do interviews with him. He knows how to navigate them. I think what will happen, though, is that the Democratic Party will continue to toil with their overall ideology. And while you have people like Jen Younger and them screaming populism, I think populism on their side of the aisle will ultimately get rejected. By the way, their form of populism is just outright communism. They just won't say it out loud. They mask it with progressive. But then again, at the same time, though, progressives and communists are not exactly the same, because communists would not be for half the crap progressives are in favor of today. Like, for example, the LGBTQ community and child drag shows, that type of stuff, their sex change operations, communists would not allow. The types of people who listen to Hasan Piker and people even to the far left of him. Yes, there are people who do exist. So Hasan Piker, for the most part, is a socialist, which, of course, I've talked about this before with their attempts of trying to create a Joe Rogan on the left. They've already been investing in YouTube, and it's gotten them nothing. So if anything, their investment would just fall flat on its face because it would be absolutely useless. But the point is this right here. Those people who can't find jobs, whatnot, those right there are probably the ones who say, screw it, I've got nothing left to lose, and they're the ones who end up getting radicalized the most. Meaning that the time frame for their little uprising or whatever that they actually want to do would probably come after 2030, which another one of my subscribers actually put in the comment section. Me and we're kind of in agreement. He said, I still believe that the hammer won't come down to 2030, and I believe that the right time for these people to do this would probably be the election of 2032, when the Democratic Party actually puts a full-blown communist on the ballot. And what do communists do when they lose? Well, they always burn things to the ground. That's another video for another day. With that right there being said, guys, make sure you guys go check out the Christmas updates video. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign up in the comments. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say, and I'll see you guys later.